Thank you for joining us, Latricia. Um, Glad you could make it. Do you want, and I know you're driving, so I don't want to distract you, but I was going to ask you to introduce yourself to us, but we'll wait until you stop. I'll just get started and we'll do a little bit of that at the end. But I wanted to take some time with everything going on in our community from a small business perspective. I know that small businesses are probably the ones taking the brunt of what's happening. So, I wanted to talk today about clarity in motion. We want to talk about leading and growing despite today's climate. And we want to talk about where some of the small business pain points actually are generating. Where are they showing up? We know where they're coming from, but then how are they manifesting? What are you seeing? We want to find out from our community, and we might just send an email out and do a survey. But I was going to ask, in one word, how is everybody showing up today? So I asked the audience for in the recording to ask yourself, how am I showing up today? Um, we want to work from being passively attentive to being more intentional about our presence and being aware of, as I say it, the energy that we're bringing into the room. So, from a reality check perspective, I also want to know what's really challenging you as a small business right now. I know where we are, but we're not all small businesses. So I'll ask the audience to either send us an email. We got, info at KRJ Consulting. You can go into our DMs on social media. I'm doing Karen R. Jenkins. .sc is the Instagram page. We have TikTok, we have LinkedIn, but hit us up on some of the things that we've been putting out there and let us know, what is your biggest pressure right now? Is it cash flow? Are you having problems where a lot of your contracts have ended? Or is it slow pay where some other of your vendors or your prime contractors are having issues? So you're the flow down and you're not getting the money coming in like you want it to. Is it client acquisition? Are you finding that you're not bringing on board or onboarding the clients that you're used to? Are you having issues on your team? Are you, and I would be surprised if you're not. As leaders of organizations, as leaders of small businesses, we set the tone. And if we're stressed out, I promise you, your staff is stressed out 10 times more than you are. So, as that leader, how are you showing up? And then how is that manifesting on your team? And then at this point in your life, are you feeling overwhelmed? Is it just like, oh, I don't know where I'm coming or going. I don't know if it's this or that. And sometimes the unknown, which is where we are right now, the unknown is really scary because we don't know what to expect. We don't know what's around the corner. And I attended a event last year where one of the Federal Reserve presidents came down to Columbia and was talking to us about the economy and what was going on in the current environment with the new administration. And I love the example that he used. And it was like, right now, we're in this massive fog. And when you're in this massive fog and you're traveling, you can't go fast, right? You have to kind of slow down and kind of be really careful because you can't see what's so far in front of you. But on the flip side of that, you can't stop either because there's something behind you and they might not see you until it's too late. And then there's that crash. And it appears that here we are in 2026 and we're still having that same experience. So, what does that feel like? Then there's the decision based on where we are right now. Is this a scaling issue that you have scaling decisions? If the cash flow isn't coming in, if the money isn't, where it needs to be, if the contracts aren't coming in, do we need to scale down? Sometimes we talk about scaling up. Is it time to scale down? Cutting back, and what does that look like? And then out of everything else that you're doing, when you're in that place of unknown, there's a confidence issue and there's a clarity issue because you don't know what's happening around you. So when we look at where we are right now, the economy as far as spending is still moving, right? Um, when I looked at some surveys, the majority of the spending is coming from the higher income individuals that are, I guess have disposable income, so they're still spending. And even moderate family incomes are still spending. And nobody's really put a screeching halt, which from an economic perspective isn't bad because those are the things that keep our engine going. But then that unknown, they are holding back on some of the spending. With the tariffs, there are businesses that have been impacted by the tariffs. So their cost of goods are impacting them. So, and they're a little tentative about, okay, well, now that my products have gone up, my cost of goods sold have gone up. Now I'm going to have to go up on my clients, and does that impact them still being able to do business with me? So when we look at the economy overall, and we'll talk about this, there's some things that we just don't have control over, which is the economy. And then the question is, how do we maneuver and what do we do to work around that? Um, Most small businesses aren't failing from a lack of ideas. It's just not knowing where do you place the idea. I might have 10 ideas, but there is no table to put it on. If there's no solid foundation to land on, if there's no environment to nurture that idea, then I might have a problem. Um, we are, as humans, um, living in a world where we like to respond to things. Our body goes on autopilot, and we're strained, what I call strained from misalignment. And you say misalignment from what? I mean, I think I've shared with some of our other Eat, Learn, Grow environments that your core values are things that dictate your growth, dictate your life, and dictate your decision making. And when that happens, sometimes we do things or we get involved in things or we work on jobs or we do things because it was a necessity, but we really didn't look to see if that thing aligned with our core values. And when they don't align with the core values, that's when we experience this angst. That's when we experience this anxiety, this, oh my gosh, I'm going to work every day and I'm miserable and all these other good things. When you are in alignment, your function and your job doesn't even feel like work. And that's the type of life that I want to work with our community on, to be able to have that life where you're fulfilling whatever your life purpose is. Don't know what it is, but we want you to identify it for yourselves. We'll help you along the way and then go from there. Then in part of everything that's happening, we're in this phase of reacting. And I had an opportunity to meet with a group of ladies at a women's home last night, and we talked a lot about life in general. But the main thing we talked about is the difference between reacting and responding. Reacting is that knee-jerk reaction that when something happens, you automatically go and boom, and you don't really give yourself that pause to slow down enough to think, is this really the response that I want to make? Because if you respond, now you're intentionally looking at scanning your entire environment. You're looking at the circumstances, and you're probably making a much better decision in response mode than you would in what I call reaction mode. So we'll talk a little bit about what tips and tools we can use to ensure that we're taking more control. We can't control our environment. We can't control the things that are happening in our world right now, but we can control how we respond to it. And that's what we're going to focus on today, is how do we make sure that regardless of all the noise, regardless of all the fog, regardless of all of the challenges that we're facing right now, how can we maintain our control over the things that we can control. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So thank you guys for joining. We're talking today about clarity and motion, leading and growing in today's climate. And what does that look like? So hopefully you guys have been looking at, since December, we've been putting out some content around what I call the synergy reset, what I call things that have been draining us as individuals. And you found some value in that. So continue to engage with us there. We will continue to put this content out because we're figuring it out too. But as I shared with you guys in our community, if I know it, you know it. And I'm just trying to help you gain information, experience, knowledge on how to improve your life, how to get from the response, from the reaction to the response, how to make sure that you are in alignment, how to make better choices for yourself and take control of your life when it feels like we actually have no control. So some of the challenges that we're facing is because there's an energy drain. And I tell you, we've had this discussion before. My belief, my life is that we are responsible for the energy we bring into the room. And as humans, we are energetic beings. And I shared before, if you don't believe me, rub your foot on some carpet and then go touch someone. There's some real electricity there. So making sure that we identify those things in our life that actually drain our energy. We want to make sure that when we look at the reaction to the pause, there has to be a strategic pause between an action, something happening, and you responding to it. That's the strategic pause. We'll talk about that. But then one of the things that we face as small business owners is isolation. I think I've shared this with you guys. As the owner of the company, when I was in corporate America, when I worked at the bank, in the mortgage bank, I had a boss that I could talk to, right? I had peers that I could talk to. And then, of course, I had my team. And if I had a challenge, just, hey, boss, it's on you. Not really, but yeah, so I can go and get guidance. When you are the boss, when you're running the company, when you're out here, it feels like you're on an island by yourself. And there's certain discussions that you can't have with your team because, they're in their world. And sometimes just thinking out loud scares people when they're hearing the things that's going through your head. So you feel isolated. And I have mentors, I have masterminds that I'm part of. And those I found to be very valuable because those are people that may not be in my industry, but they're feeling what I'm feeling. They're experiencing what I'm experiencing. So we can talk about it. I used to be in a group called Vistage, and one thing I loved about them, all the industries were different industries. And what I found in idea sharing and in information that they were sharing, there were things that were happening in their fields, right? That was similar to what was happening in mine. And I could actually apply some of what they were talking about in my world. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. Let me try this over here. And it actually works. So we want to talk about how we get out of that isolation. What resources and tools are available for us to connect with other like-minded people that are struggling and going through the exact same things that we're going through? And how do we engage? As I said before, I'm assuming you're already on our mailing list because you're here. But share our mailing list. I'm an avid believer. When I find things that I find of value, I send it to my friends on social media, my friends that's in my network. I'm texting people saying, hey, look, I found this on Instagram. I found this on TikTok. Or here's an article that I read. Or here's a book that I read that I find of value. We have to uplift each other. We have to be there for each other. We have to, it's fulfilling for me to help someone else. And then and I'm not doing it for any reason, but they appreciate it. And then now we have more of a collective group of people that are growing and prospering together. Because my thought is always a rising tide raises all ships, and we're all in this ocean together. Before I jump into what I'm calling the Synergy Reset in Business, which is the platform that I introduced in December using social media platforms. I'm still posting about it. So again, follow me on Instagram, KarenRJenkins.sc, Karen R. Jenkins on LinkedIn, Karen R. Jenkins on TikTok, Karen R. Jenkins on what else the other Twitter. So because we're putting out great content. And then KRJ Consulting, great content there with the entire team giving you information and information that you know. So I'm going to, before I get into the meat and potatoes of our segment, I want to pause real quick because we had some people join the call. Do y'all have any questions before I jump in?
I was going to say two things just because it definitely relates to what we're talking about all the time, what we're trying to send out into the universe. Finally, contextualized my thoughts on what I'm fearing at the moment. It isn't the fear of the unknown, it's the fear of the known. I like the unknown is unknown, so I don't care about that. But I see what everything is happening to other people, everything that's happening in the world, feeling for the first time in my adult life that I might lose something because of what's going on in the world. And then secondarily, right before this call today, a friend sent me something, and this is just this is less of a this is a more positive thing. They sent me something that said the universe speaks to you when your passion and your reason are aligned. And that sounds like something you'd say to me.
Yes. So, and you use the exact word, the alignment, right? um, when you say reason, for me, reason aligns with when we talked about core values. Now, there's a whole core value exercise that we take our clients through, we take our members of the Centerverse through, but we help people identify what their actual core values are because, everybody has them. And if I were to ask you what your core values are, you would talk around them. You would say, yeah, it's kind of this and it's that and whatever. But if I asked you to give me your top five, you talk around them. Everybody that I've asked that question, including me when I first asked myself that question. But we take you through an exercise that allows you to look at 25. I ask you to identify 25 adjectives that describe your core values. And then I ask you to narrow it to 20, then to 15, then to 10 to your five. And that is a hard process. And most people, when they go through that exercise, give me words that align with their professional life, how they are at work, the things that their boss would want to hear. And I'm like, yeah, that's fine, but I want to know, what are your core values when you're at home by yourself, when you're in the bathroom, when nobody else is around? What are your core values when you're in the bathtub? Like, what is important to you? And so we go back and forth through this exercise, and then they identify their top five. And the reality is that your your core values are guiding your life. You're making decisions based on it. But as I said before, sometimes you're in such a rush, you don't have time to think through it. So you end up at a job for it. So here's an example. Somebody that is a core value of theirs is peace and tranquility, and they're working in customer service. Now that is not in alignment because you cherish. That's very important to you to have that peace and tranquility, and you're not getting any type of peace and tranquility in customer service. And then you ask, you have people that go on jobs and they're miserable every day. I'm not going to anybody's job and working and being miserable 8 to 10 hours a day. I'm not doing it. So I have to identify what's making me miserable. And what they don't realize is a lot of times it's the misalignment of their core values and what's important to them and the function of what they're actually doing. So the alignment actually helps you generate that passion, Damien, because when you are in alignment, things just flow. And when things flow, as I said, there's certain things I'm doing in my job. I don't even feel like I'm working. I just love it. So that's where the passion comes in. Go ahead, David.
Yeah, I was going to say to the people on the call, I've actually gone through the core values exercise with KJ, and it was a very illuminating experience. Like I say, takes you from 50 words down to 25, down to 10, down to 5. Mine ended up being, empathy, energy, harmony, love, and wonder. And I do completely agree that, if you're not doing something in life that isn't channeling that, then it's kind of pointless. But I don't think I would have arrived on that without going through that process with KJ. So I highly recommend, if y'all are feeling like connecting to yourself and the universe at large, to go through that with, us. And it's on our website. So
Yes. So I invite you to be a part of that. So anybody else got any comments or questions before we jump in? All right. So one
Hey
of the
Karen,
things,
sorry,
go ahead.
it's Tanika.
Hi,
I
Tanika. Oh,
hey, I had you, I was on mute, so it wouldn't, I was chatting. But when you think about having like altruism as a characteristic, as a core value, um, like that's something that I've struggled with my entire career. But when I was raising my son, I didn't actually have that issue. I could walk into a job and take my altruism and apply it to other individuals without having a second thought. And, trying to relay that into like your business when you have altruistic characteristics. And sometimes it's almost too default. I remember one time you said something to me when I was leaving South Carolina to go to North Carolina to accept the job that I spent my entire career with. And you said something about being able to exist and coexist. And
I'm sorry.
that
Say that again. Exist in what?
coexist
Okay.
and learning how to do that and actually, you know, keep your peace, keep your and make a viable business at the same time. You can't be just the friendly, kind person like all the time, because I truly believe that Joker is the Batman. They're two of the same people, and how you make those two personalities coexist without losing your core value, and basically um, just being the best at what you want to do. But in my mind, when I think about my core value, I think it's I think it's altruism. Like I think that's one of my main core values, and learning to be disciplined about that in a business is the struggle that I deal with.
So great, 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 great point. Um, what I'll say is the core of who you are is who you are, but everybody's not entitled to that. Okay. So the core of who I am is who I am. And I am me every day, right? I am me at home, I am me at the office, I am me every day. But everybody's not entitled to me. So those that are in a position to receive it, here all day long. But some people don't want to fool with me. And that's fine, because I don't want to fool with you either. But that doesn't change me. You get what I'm saying? It doesn't change me. So the example that I give my kids is that you have an inner circle and then another circle and then another circle. And people are in each one of those circles. And the ones that are closest to you get to see that true altruism. And those are the ones that are probably your family, your loved ones. And you might have your close friends that get it and be a part of that. But other people are associates and clients and other people that they're not going to get it at that level, and that's okay. They're not entitled to it. So don't beat yourself up. Don't feel bad. Be your true, authentic self. I'll share with you guys before we get to the end. There, the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So your altruism sounds a little in that realm, and I'll review that in a minute. So remind me, Damien, to make sure I go back to that so we can touch on that. So anybody else before we jump in? All right. So again, go back and look at, and they're about a minute long little daily tips. We did 12 days of synergy at Christmas time, and then we've done two series already, and now we're on our third. So go and find it on social media so you can like it, share it, repeat it, put it out there. So the synergy reset is really about, when I talk to you about being responsible for the energy you bring into the room. What I tell people is that leadership, and I don't care whether you are a manager, a supervisor, or an administrative person, or just somebody that is just, hey, I'm an individual working on this team. I don't have anybody reporting to me. You are a leader. You are a leader because the first person that you have to lead is self. And sometimes we get all tied up in our circumstances, in our environment, in what's happening around us, that we forget that we lead ourselves first and that we have way more control over our lives than we give ourselves credit for. And I said before, you are responsible for the energy you bring into the room. So before you even get there, people are getting ready to respond to you. I am that person. And because I think I come authentically to everyone, most people, and even people that don't like people, will connect with me because I'm giving them a true, authentic piece of myself. So the energy that I'm carrying is inclusive energy. It is receptive energy. It is loving energy. It is collaboration energy. And people respond to that. When you are, even when unintentionally, when you're fearful, that's an energy. When you're stressed out, that's an energy. When you're mad, oh my gosh, that's an energy. And people feel that before you open your mouth. And because of that, their energy is going to connect and respond to your energy. So I want you to test it, and we'll give you some tools on how you do it, but do an energy check. Before the next room you walk into, do an energy check and go, okay, all right, I mean, what does this feel like? What is this that I'm carrying? And then if it's not a positive, you know, anabolic energy or loving energy, do a shift, right? And check it, and then walk in the room and observe how people respond to you. Because when you're on autopilot, you don't know what you're carrying. You could have just had an argument with somebody. You could have been on the street and somebody shot you the bird and almost drove you off the road, and then you're mad, your heart palpitating, and that is an energy. And then when you go into that meeting, or when you walk into the building, or when you go into the gas station, you're still carrying that. And when you're carrying that, when you go talk to that other person, you're giving them that. So again, being in the present moment enough to acknowledge and do a temperature gauge to say, okay, what is this? How am I carrying this? So I'm going to walk you through the synergy reset model that we have crafted that says, okay, when I am about to walk in that room, or when something else has happened, or somebody said something to me, the first thing you need to do is notice. You're like, notice what, Karen? Notice your energy. Notice your mindset. Notice what is going on in your head. So if you guys watched my TEDx talk, and if you haven't, please do so. Damon, if you could put a link to that in the chat for me. Leveraging the power of energy within. And I talk about the T. And I talk about the T, which basically says that your thoughts, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you might be remembering from the person running you off the road, your thoughts create an emotion. An emotion is just energy in motion. It is truly, that emotion has an energy. And then that emotion results in some form of an action. And that action can be something positive, it could be something neutral, it could be something not so good for you. But in either case, that's the T. So now y'all can go back to all your people and say, okay, I gave us the T today. And that was the T. The thoughts result in an emotion, and an emotion result in an action. So what we want to do is, at that moment, being present enough to acknowledge and get a feel for a temperature gauge of what am I carrying. Now, The other thing I'm going to share with you is that sometimes we have energy and we're good, right? And then little things start happening. And it's not like it's a big thing, but it just suddenly starts sapping our energy away. So I'll ask you, what's going on in your life? Where are you? Are you having some energy leaks with your clients? Are your clients frustrating you? Because I'll tell you, sometimes you have to fire some clients, right? You can't be your client, everybody can't be your client. Is the pricing a leak for you? Are there things going on your team that's a leak for you? Are you doing things in your personal life that may not be serving you that could actually be a leak for you? But again, you want to notice, what is my energy doing? And then you want to name it. So, what is the real issue? Like, I'm feeling this way right now. I'm carrying this energy. I feel this kind of thing going on. But what is it? Like, why? Name what it is, or name why it is, I should say. So is the real issue not necessarily just your energy? Is the real issue that you have some fear? Now, I don't know, fear around what? Fear around not getting the contract, fear around not getting paid on time, fear around, having to lay off employees, whatever. Um, is the real issue that there's an issue that you have been avoiding, that there's a conversation that needs to be had, that you just like, it might be with your spouse, it might be with an employee, it might be with a teammate, it might be with a friend. It's like, oh man, it might not go right. So I don't want to have a conversation about it. So being aware that that might be something that's causing you this angst. Are you overcommitting? As entrepreneurs, somebody says something, it's, oh yeah, I can do that. Oh yeah, I can do that too. Oh yeah, I can do that. And guess who's guilty? I am so guilty. Every time somebody's calling me, it's like, oh yeah, I can do that. I'll make it happen. I will move my schedule around for people. I had to stop that. My husband told me to stop. So I did. And not permanently, but yeah, I'll say I slowed down. I'll be honest about it. I slowed down. And then the other part of it, sometimes we're working so hard and churning and trying to go after business, and the business isn't even profitable. Sometimes we're just getting business just to say we got some, and we don't even know what our break-even point is. So we're actually operating without any type of profit margin. So we have to get out of this state. So notice it, name it, and then we want to neutralize it if it's not serving us. So certain things we're tolerating and certain things we need to stop tolerating. When there's an issue, the way that we deal with it is we have to neutralize the issue. So if the fact that we've underpriced our product and we're not even making any money, we got to go back and talk to that client and say, either look, I'm gonna have to increase my price to make sure that I'm making money off of this, or I'm gonna have to not do it. I have clients that you get a contract and the scope of work says this, and then it was 7 things on there, and before you know it, the 7 things turn into 12. That's called scope creep. So have they, added things inadvertently or advertently to what I'm doing, and now I'm overwhelmed because I'm doing way too much and I'm not paying attention. We need boundaries, and maybe we're not setting proper boundaries. So making sure that we're setting our boundaries, that we have clarity, can help us in the name it, notice it, name it, and now we're going to neutralize it. Overextension, doing too much, all at the same time. I have friends that I don't know how they get up in the morning and go do what they do, because they're doing way more than I do. And I know I do a lot. And I have conversations with them sometimes about overextending themselves. So making sure that you're paying attention to that. And then the last part of the synergy reset is to navigate. When you navigate, you're intentionally, it's like the respond part of the equation versus the reaction part. It is, what is one decisive move that I'm going to make this month to ensure that I'm in alignment, to ensure that I've neutralized whatever the pain was or the challenge was that I had. And as I said before, is it raising prices? Is it there was a pain that you had or a drain? There was something that was draining your energy. You know, you might have a client and and you make, $500 off of them over a year. And you got other clients that you're making five and $10,000 a month. And this one $500 a year client is calling you 1,200 times a day. And you're like, why are you calling me? Like, why do you keep calling me? Um, you got low maintenance clients and you got high maintenance clients. Now, if you high dollar and you high maintenance, that might be okay, but we have to manage that too. But if you low dollar and you're trying to be high maintenance, you might have to make some decisions. Some drain, remove a drain might be okay. So here's another drain. I am very particular about who I allow in my space. I am very particular about what I allow in my space. I am not watching the news. I'm limiting my time on social media, and I am being very careful about what I'm listening to. So, from lyrics to music, I am very careful. What I'm watching on television, it has to be very anabolic, high level, positive. I don't want to do the housewives. I don't want to do the news because the arguing and all of that, that's energy. And I don't want any part of it. Um, People have negative energy. If you're that type of person, or maybe not you, you've been around people when you call them on the phone, the conversation might start with hello, but from that point on, they're complaining about everything. I don't mind having a friend that I can talk to and they want to vent a little bit, and then, let's move on. But I told, I had a friend, I said, okay, listen, I understand you stressed, baby, but here's what we're going to do. When we talk from now on, you can have one concern that you can talk about, and then you got to tell me about two blessings. Because focusing on the negative and focusing on all the things that who said what and why they did it and all of that is a drain, and you don't realize it. Watching the news and listening to all the negative thing that's getting you all hyped, that's a drain. So you have to, I call it protecting my peace. You have to protect your peace. Um, One thing in protecting your peace, we talked about it before, is there a conversation that you're avoiding? Because it's not going to go anywhere. The issue is not going to be resolved if you just sit there and do nothing. My recommendation is to check your energy, come at it from an altruistic perspective, and have that hard conversation. And it won't be as hard when you come at it from a place of love. And then systematizing one reoccurring chaotic thing in your life. You know, Even if it's dealing with the kids, put them on a schedule, right? But creating things that help you maintain your sanity and maintain your level of energy is the fourth part of navigate. So those are the four steps: name, no, notice, name, neutralize, and then navigate. And as I said, go out and look at all of the videos because it gives you some really good detailed tips on exactly what to do and how to do it. Any questions about anything I've said so far?
Was gonna say make sure you go back to the hierarchy as it relates to altruism.
Yes, 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 yes. So I'm gonna open it up real quick. Anybody before I touch on that? Questions, comments? No? So
This is Tanika really quickly. Sorry.
yes.
I was
No,
on
no,
mute.
no, you're
I just
good.
wanted to say, when you talk about energy, everybody always asks me why I don't watch television. They go, "You don't look at TV?" And I'm like, well, I look at Murder, She Wrote because that's pretty much all I like to look at on television, and I like NPR when I'm in the car. But I get it, like the energy, and people want to talk about things over and over and over again. Like there's nothing we can do about who is in control of the country right now, and all the kind of things that people love to go on and on about every single day. And I try to focus on the tasks that are in front of me, how I can focus on building a, a network and a company of people that think like I do and don't get or just think common minded, not like I do, but just common interest in how we can be the change we want to see in the world. All the other stuff, I just cannot think about it. And I think it's a part of that altruism thing in me, being raised by a grandmother who never saw the bad in anyone. And you do have to see things like that in people and recognize it. You know, when you say test the energy, you know, go into somewhere and test the energy, you do that. Like I like to spend time at the library, and when I walk in there, it's a multitude of people in there. You can recognize who is who, who's working, who's homeless, who's not, and all of those things you can see in a minute. The children, how they're interacting, and then you can still focus on your tasks. So I challenge myself to do things like that, to go into, because the library has become a little chaotic. You know, it used to be quiet. People can talk loud now. They can do what they want to do. And I go into places so that I could channel my energy on how do I stay focused in chaos too. Because right now our world is a little chaotic, but that doesn't mean that you have to be chaotic. So everything that you're saying about energy and all of those things, it's like, oh, thank you, Karen, for sharing. Because people tend to think you're crazy when you say, oh, I go sit in a library to work. They're like, why don't you stay where you are? Well, the library has always been my safe place. And for me, sometimes I go back to what is safe for me as a that was safe for me as a kid and figure out how I can get that energy when I was a little girl and going out to people and attracting that energy that I was getting before and that I still get and not feeling bad about it because it's what's driving my business and I didn't recognize that about myself. So that I like what you're saying about the energy. I don't want to go off on a tangent, but that
No, no, no.
it was
You're
beautiful.
so on point, and I so appreciate you bringing that up because with us being human beings, right, and we are magnetic. We have energy. We're all made up of energy. We attract energy based on our thoughts. Our thoughts. Remember, I said our thoughts create the emotion, which is and I'm gonna call it the magnetic, energetic, vibrational frequency. Okay. So your emotions have a vibrational frequency, and you can kind of feel it. You know the difference between happiness and joy, sadness and regret, right? Y'all you kind of sit in that for a minute. So if you think about it, if I'm over here, there's a vibrational frequency attached to sadness and frustration and fear. And then there's a vibrational frequency that's attached to joy and happiness. And whatever you are feeling is sending a vibrational frequency out to the universe. And you attract what you're putting out. So I'm very cognizant of, protective of, and careful of what I allow my body to think and feel, because I know that if I'm going to sit here and focus on something over and over and over again, and it's negative over and over and over again, that it is putting out that vibrational frequency of negative, of, oh my God, I got too many bills, or oh my God, I'm not getting this contract, or, oh my God, and I'm going to get more of that, right? I'm going to get more of that because that's the vibrational frequency that I'm putting out. Whereas if I put out love, joy, happiness, peace, just who I am, I'm going to get more of that. So I tend to attract like-minded people. There are some people that try to come into the path, but I'm like, no, thank you. But again, you attract what you are. And unfortunately, you're not your thoughts, but you are. And I want us to be able to separate ourselves from the fact that we are not our thoughts. We have control over our thoughts, but our thoughts will dictate our life. So we have to make sure that we're around like-minded people. We're around people that are growth driven, that are positive, that are connected, that want to uplift, and not around or even subjecting ourselves to the social media on the negative tip, the news on the negative tip, all the other things. Everything around you, our life doesn't stop because it's raining outside. Our life does not stop and come to a halt because it was snowing. Well, in Columbia, South Carolina, you don't go nowhere, but your life don't stop. So it's the same thing with emotion. Your life does not stop because there's a lot of crazy stuff going on around you. You go ahead and focus on the things that you have access to, and focus on the things that you do have control over for a better quality of life. Because at that point, as Bruce Willis said, when you are so rigid in your life that um, you're not flexible, your life is going to be hard. He's like, I don't know if y'all can see the water, but he's like, be the water. When the water goes this way, you go this way. The water goes that way. You be flexible, be like the water. So the six hierarchy of needs, right? Everybody has these. The question that you have to ask yourself is there's two that are primary for you. And I'm going to ask you to just ask it for yourself. So certainty is one and variety is another. Everybody wants to know ahead of time where we're going, when we're going, how we're going to get there, whatever, whatever. So you want to know certainty, but then doing the same thing over and over again, you get bored. So you also want some variety. Then there's love and connection. I don't care who you are. Everybody wants some form of love and connection. But then the other one is significance and growth. Now, if your life is being led by significance and certainty, I promise you stressed out. I promise you, you are on pins and needles every day because you want to be significant to the community, to your life, to whoever, right? And you can't be significant to everybody like that if that's your priority. And then you want certainty, and there's no such thing as certainty. So you can see the cycle of madness that people that lead their lives with these two as their primary might be a little angst and have this T thing going on with them where their thoughts and their emotions create actions that are not really what they want. So I'm telling you to, even if right now you had to think about it and those were your two primaries, I'm going to ask you to sit back and go through these exercises with us. Be a part of our community. Let us help you figure out how you're going to get more of the love and connection, how you can get more of the growth, how you can get more of the variety in your life, right? Because we have all six. It's just which ones are leading our lives. And I'm telling you, the one that's the most stressful is when those two, the significance and the certainty, are leading your lives because there's no such thing. So with that said, I want to take us as we wrap up in the next few minutes. I thought we would have a bigger group, but I was going to break us up into groups. So I'm just going to give y'all some homework to think through. And I'm going to ask you to send it to me at info@KRJ Consulting. Just some feedback because I want to see where you are. So your homework is answer the following questions. What is the one issue quietly draining your growth? Again, what is the one issue that is quietly draining your growth? Or maybe just draining you, period. So that's number one. The next question is, after we've talked about all these things today, what decisive move are you committing to in the next 30 days? There has to be something in this for you. So what decisive move are you going to commit to in the next 30 days? And then the last thing is, what support do you need from our community? We need to know. I get feedback. I hear people and they say, Karen, I got this problem, I got that problem. And we try to put programming together to make sure that we're scratching that itch or that we're solving that issue. But I don't know it all. So when you discover that there's something, please send it in. Let us look at it. Let us figure out if there's something that we can help you create some clarity on and come up with some honest answers about what you need to do to move forward. Let us see. Any other comments or questions before we do our final wrap up?
What was the last one you said?
The last question was, what support do you need from our community? As I said, that's what we would have done in the breakout session. I'm gonna give y'all some reflection questions at the end as well. We'll be recording this, so we'll be sending out the recording to you guys so you can go back and recap and listen. What I want to reinforce is that growth doesn't happen from working harder. It happens from working from alignment, and it happens from working smarter. And that's what we want to focus on. So as you are putting your strategies together, you're doing your self-analysis, you're checking yourselves as you're walking into these rooms. You know, you're before, and a room is at home too, because you might have had the worst day at work, right? Or something bad happened. You don't carry that home. Before you get out of that car, do a self-check. You know, analyze what am I feeling right now? Notice it, name it, neutralize it, and then navigate it before you walk in and carry that into your house. To snap your spouse head off, you know, to be short with your kids, you know, tell the dog to get out when, you know, he didn't do nothing. And that happens because we're human and we go on this unconscious mechanism where we're not aware of what we're carrying and how it's impacting other people. So I want you to stay on top of that. So here's some things I want you to reflect on for this coming week. And then we'll have a save the date, March 25th. We're having another virtual Eat, Learn, Grow. We're going to bring in a panel to have some discussion around what's going on in our community with small business and how we can help. But I want you to do some things for yourself in between now and the next time we connect. So I want you to ask yourself, where am I operating from pressure instead of purpose? Because sometimes we put pressure on ourselves when we're looking at the news, when we're looking at all these external factors that I'm telling you, I tell you to mind your business because I mind my business. I don't, you know, there's certain things that they're talking about on the news, which probably 98% of them ain't got nothing to do with me. I don't like it. I don't want to see it. I don't, you know, I hate that it's happening, but I can't swallow that negativity. I can't swallow that stuff and own it and carry it around with me. It's weighing me down. I have other things over here. I got a whole team that I'm responsible for. I have a business I'm responsible for. I have a community that I'm supporting. I have a family that I'm supporting. So I have to mind my business. And I want to make my business and my people my priority. So the next thing I want you to do is, what conversation have I delayed that would free me if I were to have that conversation? And again, when you come into our Centerverse and you have issues like this, you can bring it to the group and we will walk you through what to say, how to say, when to say it. We will let you rehearse with us so that you get more comfortable about having some of these challenging discussions. So there's support out here for you if you want to be a part of the Centerverse. And then the third one is, what does sustainable growth actually look like for me? You know, they say write it down, make it plain. You know, sometimes we don't have a plan and we don't write it down. So then we're kind of like out in the wilderness, not really focusing on where we're going because we don't really know. But we have to define that. So if you need ongoing strategic conversations, if you're looking for somebody to help you be accountable and help you find that, what I call that energetic alignment, that's exactly what the Centerverse does. That's exactly why we exist. That's why we're here. As a resource for you to help you not feel lonely, to help you navigate this world of whatever this is that we got going on, and we and go from there. So with 2 minutes to spare, I will open it up for any final questions or comments before we end our call.
Thank you,
Well,
Karen. This
you
was
are
great.
you are quite welcome.
Thank
Our website, krjconsulting.com. Go out there if you want to join the Centerverse. The information on that is out there. If you're not on our mailing list, join the mailing list. Definitely follow us on social media. I think I heard somebody say something. Did somebody say something?
Yep. I was just going to say thank you as well. Very enlightening information and questions. Greatly appreciated.
Well, thank you for being here, and I hope you guys are able to join us next month. And on the 25th, we'll be sending out some notices on that for registration. Guys, share this information with people that you know. You know, push our information out there. This is real, and I don't know that I've seen a lot of people that are actually helping people understand how they can navigate through the course of their life, especially in the struggles that we have right now. So just put it out there, share it. You know, again, there's a we're giving it away. We're truly giving it away. But there's also a membership component for those that want to go a lot deeper. And we welcome you to be a part of either one of those. So I wish you all much success, and I look forward to seeing you guys on the next call. Thank you.
I